Hey everyone, Francesca Amato here, and it's been a minute, but I've only got 10 minutes to go over some of the information that I want to give you guys today. So I want to talk about what's happening within the courts, primarily family court, and other places that are violating the ADA. So I don't want to leave anything out, and I do have a lot to go over, and obviously a short period of time here for 10 minutes. But the courts, so the job of an ADA advocate like myself, and I am a multifaceted expert, but a forensic expert in the Americans with Disability Act. What I am able to do is to take the domestic violence background, the child abuse background, the Articles of Human Rights background, the constitutional law background, and incorporate that into the violations that are occurring in the family court through the Americans with Disability Act. Okay? So as I try to go through this for you, I'm going to first talk about effective communication, okay? I would be coming in as an ADA advocate as your effective communication. What does that mean? Well, that means that, let's give an example. If you were Spanish speaking and the court is English speaking and you had to have an interpreter come in, that would be for effective communication, both to the court, to everyone there, to convert the language so that both sides can understand it and their client that speaks Spanish would understand it back to them in English. If they don't have effective communication, they can't have court. Okay, so under 28 CFR 36.303C, that would be under Title II of the Americans with Disability Act, the ADA, federal codification for that. I would act as that in a different way. It's called psychological injury. Now, I'm going to break this down. If a person came wheeling in a wheelchair, no one would ask that person. Okay, so that would be under the category called auxiliary aids. This would be for effective communication. But when people think of auxiliary aids, they're thinking of things that are mechanical, right? No, not necessarily. Let me read to you what an auxiliary aid definition is. So the definition of auxiliary aids is listed under items, equipment, or services. I would be considered a service, like a service dog, an emotional support dog, which I'm going to be doing some talking about that in another video because people are completely wrong about ESA and service dogs, which I'm going to get into because people think that ESA dogs, emotional support dogs, are not service dogs, and that is completely wrong. But I'll get into that in another video for you guys, okay? And I'll explain why. Okay, so now if you go to 42 USC 12203B, okay, subsection B, that would be an ADA advocate being a companion, an aid, to encourage, to assist. It's a full accommodation. We have a very broad spectrum of what we can do because you have to understand that under the Americans with Disability Act, and so when you have opposing counsel being aggressive and arrogant and all that, and they want to throw the argument, she can't talk because she's not a licensed attorney. First of all, it's a certified bar member, and she's doing the unauthorized practice of law, which is not correct, because I would have the right to aid and assist my client under 42 USC 12203 subsection B, and also 28 CFR 36.303C with the effective communication tool as an interpreter from, remember before I said Spanish to English, English to Spanish. Now it's from ADA language, converting it into the court's comprehension so they don't violate. And then back to how it relates. Well, what do you mean? Well, the person that's there, how does this relate to them? How does this relate as a domestic violence victim, as a mother that's trying to protect her children from abuse, as a father who's deaf, or whatever the case may be? Because if you don't have effective communication in the court, you don't have equal footing in the court. Okay? So, okay, now without getting too deep on this, because we do have limited time, Tennessee versus Lane, no state is immune. No state actor is immune when they violate the ADA. I'm not going to get too much into that this one, but I will in another video for you guys. So why is all of this important? Well, this is important, and including, have you ever heard, and it's usually you've seen it in the movies, you'll hear them say, unless you're a court watcher and you watch courts all the time like I do, you'll hear them say they're badgering the witness. Okay, don't badger the witness, meaning don't attack them, don't badger them, don't, asked and answered, they've answered it 3 different ways. There's reasons for that. Okay, it goes back to the equal footing. I'm sorry, it goes back to the fact that the wording could be twisted, the meaning could be different, it could be objectionable, and it could be appealed because the attorney didn't properly treat a witness. How much more would that be for somebody that is a federally protected class member under the ADA, which we're going to talk about who's a federally protected class member under the ADA. We'll talk about that. Because if you're badgering that person and they have suffered trauma and they have post-traumatic stress or depression or anxiety or any of those, attorneys have vicarious trauma. Okay, law firms that are really good at what they do, okay, and win cases, every single lawyer in their group could have some kind of a emotional disability. That does not make them, I'm not going to say it doesn't make them a bad person, because some people are very bad people that are lawyers, but I'm trying to talk about this in a way that people would understand it. That doesn't make them incapable of having children and raising them well, okay? So the reason that it's important to have an ADA advocate, okay, is because we are there to not just insert your rights and invoke your rights, but to ensure that the court and the players, the actors, are not violating those rights, and they're not making court orders that are violating those rights. And remember something, your court order has to be in compliance with the Americans with Disability Act. It has to be in compliance with the domestic violence laws, child abuse laws. So a lot of these judges are making horrific decisions. They're making court orders that are endangering child welfare. We see it all the time. And they're not incorporating these key factors, the Americans with Disability Act, the constitutional rights and laws, your articles of human rights, and things like that. So when they're not, they don't have immunity against such. Okay, and when they're making these decisions, and as we know, it's a circus show, it really is, they are causing tremendous harm, which now exacerbates pre-existing conditions, causes conditions, and yes, legal abuse syndrome is on, I believe it's Z, on the DSM-5, okay? And so we help you so that you can sue them later, and you can sue them. These are very important things as we are slowly but surely, individually and corporately. What you're seeing, if you go to my Facebook page, Francesca Amato, you'll see all the children that have been protected, saved, returned, okay, not taken. And that's not with the help of a lawyer, okay? We encourage the lawyers to do their jobs because a lot of them get paid and they don't do their jobs, okay? You're the last person they care about because their allegiance is to the court. And so we are asserting your rights. That's what we're doing. It's important to, that's why you'll always see on all of my TikToks, and my speeches and my talks and wherever I am teaching, to assert your rights and know your rights. It's important to know your rights. We live in a country right now for a number of years that people, they think the Constitution is gone. There's groups that are actually well-meaning that are saying stupid things that are actually hurting them long-term. That's why I'm very cautious. And one of our things that we tell new people is please be careful that you're not grabbing everybody on social media, because everybody says that there's something that they're really not. Okay, they're just kind of hooking on, and I can tell by listening to them, they really don't have the knowledge that they should have. And so their stuff can actually hurt you more than help you. So, okay, let's talk about visible and invisible injury. So under the Americans with Disability Act, Title II, which is the lower courts, it's actually labeled as invisible injury, and that's to protect your privacy. So you know how they're ordering you to take a mental health exam, or you have these judges that'll say, she needs a mental health exam in front of the whole courtroom of people. That judge just diagnosed you, like as if something is really mentally wrong with you and you can't cope and you can't live and you're foaming from the mouth. So the respectful way is to call it invisible injury, and I like to call it psychological injury because obviously mental health illness has a very negative connotation. Anyway, lots more where this came from. If you need my help, go to Book a Talk, and it's in my bio at Punished for Being a Parent. Thank you so much for watching.